Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another photo mishmash. This one being broadcast live January 13th, 2020. We've got a packed show and I've got great guests to talk about. First, the stuff that I want to tease. We've got a new Nisi lens. I want to talk about it. Wait, Nissi, they're more known for their filters, but now they have a lens. I've been shooting with it for the past couple of days at least, and we'll share some thoughts. And plus, I want to get my guests' thoughts on using manual lenses. Sony has revealed more of their drone. We still don't know full specs, but it's big enough to carry a full-size Sony camera. How much is that going to cost? Capture One has raised their prices, but David Carr has made it his goal to learn and use that this year. So I'm interested to check in with him on how all of that's going. And just a ton more content. It's all escaping my brain right now. But I'm really excited to welcome back to the show today Tonya Wilhelm, who will be joining us. And I was going to tease, Tonya, you've got new projects that you're really excited about this year. So we'll be talking to you about some of that. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I am excited about my new projects. I feel like I'm doing a lot of behind the scenes work right now and I want to get into it, but you have to do all the prep work first. So
yeah, that's true. I'm not sure people realize when you see these kind of creative photos. And if anybody watching hasn't seen Tonya's work, her Instagram is linked right down below and you should go follow. You are a fantastic portrait photographer. And how else do you describe yourself, actually? Let me let you describe yourself, because it's kind of a very creative self-portraiture. Was that right?
Yeah. I don't know. I should probably not describe myself, but I think that I'm a portrait photographer. Even when I'm photographing macro, I feel like I'm a portrait photographer. So that's why I always have, I don't usually do just like flowers and things like that. I feel like I need a subject. But when I'm doing my fine art projects, I generally am doing self-portraiture, and it's just kind of a creative outlet for me. I think it's really important, even for my clients, that I'm doing creative projects for myself, because it keeps me fresh and learning things that I don't otherwise, because you're just trying to always be so prepared for client work that you aren't able to be creative sometimes in the exploratory ways that I can, at least.
Yeah. Awesome. So I'm looking forward to chatting a little bit more about that. And you are going to share the prop that's going to be central to your creativity this year. Chat room, I haven't welcomed you yet. Chat room, let's throw out some ideas. So if you've looked at Tonya's Instagram, prior it was a couch. What do you think it might be now? I suspect you're not going to get it right, but throw some answers in there. And David Carr, welcome back to the show. Thanks so much for joining us today. How are you?
I'm good. Good to see you guys. I think it's been a while since since I've been on with Tonya, and so good to be back. And I'm glad that my mic works now, because
we had a little bit of audio issues there, didn't we?
I don't know what was going on.
You sound great now, so
good. I'm glad.
And you are the standard for the show, so if you are having issues, the rest of the show we should just pack it up and be done. I think
I can. So. I'm about to pull out what is left of my hair when things like that happen. So I figured it out.
It's no fun. Yeah, good.
Yeah, good to be back though, and thank you, chat room, for having me back. You had no choice, but I appreciate you welcoming me.
That's right. And David Carr, of course, can be followed at DavidCarr_photo, and that's linked right down below this video. And David, you are a portrait photographer in the Atlanta, Georgia area.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because somebody today was asking me like what I shoot, and it's like, well, I mean, yeah, I do shoot portraits, but I shoot a lot of different stuff, and but yeah, I call myself that, especially in the area, because that's where you get paid. So it's got to go with that. So
true story.
Yeah.
Yep. Very true.
Yeah.
All right. And chat room, I want to welcome you all. I said hi once, but just hello again. Thank you all for joining us. If you're watching right now and you haven't followed these two wonderful people, you should go do that. It's also really nice if you take a moment and hit that thumbs up on this show. And Roy is in the chat room, and he will be collecting your questions as we go along. Sometimes we answer them right off the bat if they really kind of are pertinent to the conversation, and sometimes we just collect them and answer them at the end of the show. So if you have photography questions, gear-wise or specific to anything any of us are talking about, throw those in there. It's nice to put a little Q in front of them. Roy will collect them, and we'll answer them to the end of the show. Heather, Tonya, you got a question. Heather wants to know, is it David's Walmart plastic lawn chair?
I mean, if you want to bring me a plastic lawn chair, we can make some pictures.
All right, I'll be right there with it.
Okay.
Yeah. We actually probably do have a lawn chair that needs to go in the trash pile, but not from Walmart. I mean, Target.
Clearly.
Le Target.
Exactly. Yeah. That could be
right.
interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I can work with that.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I reupholstered a couch 12 times last year. I think a chair would be easier.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll have to see.
Yeah, the amount of work. Let's pull up your Instagram real quick because
I have to just spoiler. My prop this year is also broken and free, and not much classier.
Well, you can kind of recreate. I don't know. You reupholstered the couch, didn't you? I mean, didn't you do some?
Oh yeah, every day for 5 days.
So maybe whatever this is, maybe you can kind of give it a little bit of decorative love.
I don't think I can take a staple gun to it though. So if you're out there guessing.
All right, we're getting all kinds of good hints. So here are a couple of the different ones with the couch. How many pictures total did you make using the couch as a prop?
Well, my original project was a photo a day for 5 days, and I built all the sets, rebuilt them each day. So, but then we were in quarantine. It just happened that the day I started the project, everything shut down. I work at a school that closed down. So after that, then I did a picture a week for a little while because it's kind of into it, and there wasn't much else happening.
Right.
So
at least the creative juices were flowing during. I mean, I was, my last podcast was all about having no desire to be creative for the last 9 months. So hats off to anybody like yourself who went there. So
yeah, I'm right there with you, Carr. Feeling the same. So Tonya, very, very impressive.
Thank you.
Very much so.
Yeah. I tell you what, let's jump into the Lightroom editing tips and tricks section just to give chat room just a little bit more time to mull over what this free broken prop that's going to be central to Tonya's 2021 creativity is going to be. And let's dive into giving some tips and tricks in Lightroom. And just a reminder, every time I go back and I add the table of contents to this show, I'm just reminded how long we often spend editing pictures. We want to tighten it up just a little bit more. And I actually do have a hard out again today. I need to be wrapped up by 3:30 so that I can be on a Zoom call with my niece who is turning 7.
Oh, that's very important.
Yes,
one
it
of
is.
those. Right around there. So yes.
We will not keep her waiting. No.
We will want to jump into that. We want to make sure we've got enough time for all of our news as well. So let me bring back our screen layout, and let's dive right into our first shot. Eric Anderson's, you got these names down under. I'm just going to skip over that. Someplace in Tasmania. And the first thing that strikes me about this image is it's got a nice mood to it, and I love the way our rocks are leading us out into that kind of that water with that really cool, more aqua color to it.
Yeah, it's nice.
I know this has really strong leading lines, so has a lot of drama right away because of that.
And I even feel like we've got some nice leading lines in the clouds as well, at least this half. We all kind of are coming down to this point out here somewhere. I do wish that there was a little bit more balance because we've got just nothing over in this section of the sky.
Yeah. I was kind of feeling that as well.
Yeah.
Could use a little balance.
No. And I mean, one way you could clone in, we get into discussion. If this was my own picture, I probably would not add in any clouds. But I'm not sure what else you could do to bring in a little bit more balance in these. You could go with a less symmetrical shot.
Yeah, it gets tricky because, I mean, I've done things like this where I've completely removed all the clouds and just kind of had a very uniform sky. But, I mean, it starts to get pretty tedious to really do that in a way that is believable. It's tricky if I can just speak into that, because I mean, actually, the way you just cropped it from a like geometric standpoint of what's actually happening in the frame, it makes more sense. Although it ends up cutting out a lot of the cool stuff that's happening in the water. If you squint at that and you just look at leading lines coming up from the top left, and then kind of leading lines of the rocks going out into the water, to me it has a geometric what's the word, pleasingness. I mean, it's more pleasing geometrically. I think there's this empty chasm on the right if you have the whole frame without something else in the sky. That's just how I see it.
And then one other thing, I wonder, I like the moody tones to it, but there is just a couple of spots where I feel like I want to see a little bit more detail in the shadows. So I'm going to bring that up. Just a touch. Just to bring out that. I love this kind of gray, cool, and then this aquamarine colors out here that are really pretty, and then that yellow up there.
Yeah. And I like what just happened to the water there when you moved that.
Kind of evens it out a little bit.
Finding the exact right-hand crop is going to be tricky, because I feel like there's a little bit of awkwardness there. But you might be able to just kind of play with that back and forth a little bit until you find a spot where you can sneak it in.
Yeah.
Nice. Thanks, Eric. All right, Laurie Rainbold has this one, which is going to like the Badlands or maybe Theodore Roosevelt National Park. I know Laurie is on a national parks project. She wants to visit all of the national parks. Laurie, I don't know if you're watching, but you know they've just added a new one in West Virginia. The New River Gorge is now our 63rd national park.
Wow, I did not know that.
I just read that the other day. It's a beautiful area. I visited once or twice when I lived on the East Coast. They slipped that legislation into the last COVID relief bill. They're like, and we're going to make this area a national park. So,
of course they did. That's amazing.
All right. But here, back to this shot. This is cool. We've got a little family of some goats. And,
looks like some sort of goats.
All of those kind of cool stuff in the background. A little out of focus grass in the foreground.
What? So I'm looking at this, obviously much smaller than you, but are there like red specks underneath the kind of?
Sorry. Yes, I had the J key. I had the highlight warning key on.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good. I was like, that is so weird looking, and I can't figure out what it is.
It's lava. They're standing over a
I
lava.
kind of thought it was crumpled up candy cane, but that didn't feel like it worked for this.
Sounds like something you would do, Tonya.
This is I love the scene, and I love this kind of expanse to it. But I think we have the same idea without that rear as well. And again, the general disclaimer we make just about every show, I'm not saying go out there and capture these wide shots and then crop them in. What we're kind of trying to suggest is if you were out there, maybe a shot, and Laura, you might have had one like this, where you're in tighter, shooting tighter, not cropping tighter.
Yeah.
It has I think enough of the same elements and enough of that distance that it's still interesting, but we really are brought into this cute moment of these little family of goats traversing this ridge.
Yeah, and it looks like there's some grass in the foreground that's just very out of focus, which, you can do a cool thing with that sometimes with like a foreground element that's out of focus. I wonder if it's a little bit too ambiguous. It's like I can tell that's what it is. Obviously, when you do that, because I can see at the very bottom of the crop where it is. But I'm wondering if you were to just come up a little closer to that bottom goat and just, I don't know, just kind of play around, because I don't know. I get the idea of using something in the foreground to be out of focus, but you're doing it's pretty much a landscape shot with some wildlife in it. So it seems to me important in a shot like this to try to get everything in focus, because it's not the kind of shot that has like this sort of like three elements that need to all be in different planes of focus. You know what I'm saying? So
I'm actually glad you said that, because I was going to suggest pulling up the bottom, but I'd like to play devil's advocate on this one. because I feel like it is a landscape that animals happen to be in,
Mhm.
I kind of like the depth of going all the way back through the color gradient of mountain ranges.
Yeah.
So I didn't mind that. Like I felt like it was a landscape, and so we should keep that.
Okay.
But it's again, a lot of times I feel like sometimes when I'm with Steve, he crops it and he turns it into a different story, and I think that it's right for that story. So it depends on what you want to communicate here. Because if it's about the animals, I think we should go for the crop. But if you feel like it's the landscape primarily, then I kind of like this.
Yeah, I definitely can see that, and I've also been envisioning it in black and white, just as a as an
Yeah.
idea.
Yeah, before we go black and white, let me just real quick. If we want to keep more, and even if we didn't, if we cropped in, I think coming a little bit warmer would be good, and maybe adding just a tiny bit of dehaze to get just a little bit more texture out of that.
Yeah,
Not
yeah.
a lot, because you want that you want that feeling of distance.
Mhm.
But I'm curious. Black and white is quite nice.
Yeah, it's
Little.
cool. Like
More contrast.
I actually really like this photograph. I'm not blowing smoke. I mean, I'm for real. Like I really like what's happening here, because I feel like if it's treated just right, printed large, framed or whatever, like I could really see that being on the wall. I think it just has like you just kind of caught this special like moment of these three goats in this beautiful scenery. It's simple. There's a lot of complexity to what's in it, but there's a simplicity to the story to me that I don't know. I really like it, and I love the fact that there are three goats. I'm glad you were able to find a spot with three, not two, not four, but there's just something about threes that works really well.
Yeah.
I think that's worked nice. Laurie's in chat said she was really trying to show them in their environment, which I understand.
Yeah.
I think you could go either way. I do personally like the tighter crop. I think you still have that feeling of the environment.
Sure.
But you definitely get that feeling of vast out westness when you let that whole nother valley, whole nother layer show up.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you, Laurie. All right, moving on. We've got Steve with this Milky Way shot. And let's see. Now, Steve is the one we've talked. Steve Partridge, by the way. I've been saying the last name a couple of times wrong last name when with Steve's has come up. So sorry about that, Steve. Let's bring up this exposure a little bit. I think this is in Zion. And it looks very dark at the moment. And I'm not sure why it's so dark.
Yeah, it just looked like a black rectangle on my screen, but it's starting to come to life, it looks like.
Yeah, let's bring it all. There we go.
Oh, wow.
Hold on.
Raw photos.
It's responding very strangely to, I feel like, and part of Steve wanted us to send in an image is he's the one I mentioned a couple of months ago. Embarrassingly, it was that long ago that he realized they had this problem, reached out to me, and I've done very little about it. And that is that the amount of noise you see on the shot inside Lightroom is far different from what you get once you export the image out. But we're not going to be able to kind of play with that unless we can really see this in better detail here. I don't know why.
Yeah, it seems strange. I see that he's asking if his edits didn't come through, and I'm going to guess no, because I follow his work, and this doesn't seem like one of his pictures.
Some of the sliders are moved. I wonder, so I've recently updated I started a new catalog for 2021, and as a result, I am playing with this option here of use smart previews instead of originals for image editing. I don't think that would cause this drastic of an issue, but I wonder if it is. Let's click off and back on for a second and see if we have any kind of change. No. Steve, let's put this one aside. Let's come back to it next week. You and I, let's chat and see if we can figure that. Oh, look. Yeah, I think that was something to do with the smart preview. And now, since I turned that off,
wow.
back to the original.
Interesting. Okay, there you go. Now it's starting to look like, man.
Very interesting. That's why so drastic.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. I've never seen anything do that before. And
I haven't either. So now I'm not sure exactly where it was. Oh, I should be able to reset it to import. And even though this is a tiny catalog with just a couple pictures, it is freaking slow. David Carr, tell me again how you're liking Capture One.
Stop! I don't want to love it. I can't learn another new thing.
we can talk about that now, or we can talk about it later. Yeah.
Yeah, let's hold on. Okay, I think so. Yes, so it's a beautiful shot. It's really nice.
Yeah.
Why it looks so terrible at first? The only thing I can think of was that smart preview issue.
Yeah, it must have been something to do with that.
Yeah.
Glitchy.
All right, so let's spend a quick moment critiquing this, and then let's see if I can show you how different it is. Actually, I'll tell you what I'll do right now. No, we'll work on it first a little bit. So I'm going to brighten it just a little bit more and see where we end up. I think there's room for a little more brightness up there.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah, I think the color of the sky is good.
Yeah.
Let's bring shadows up a little bit more. See if we can fill in some of the darkness down in the foreground. So what we were doing is standing on the bridge in Zion National Park. I was using a little credit card sized flashlight to shine over these trees and give them some light.
Sure.
And yeah, let's bring blacks up just a little bit too and see if we can even that out a little more. I think your Milky Way looks really nice. I think you did some editing to it, Steve, and maybe a little bit more than I would. Down here in this area, I feel like it looks a little funny. Let's see where you painted this on. Yeah, I think there's a little bit of over editing in here that kind of stands out. But other than that, I think you've got a really nice shot on your hand. I'm noticing two little lights right here and here. Get rid of. I don't know. Any other suggestions, Tonya or David, on what you would do with this image?
Well, just from looking at it, I'm I'm always seeing these images kind of smaller, the way I have my screen set up with the different windows and stuff. But just at first glance, I feel like maybe there could be a cropping thing to be done coming up from the bottom, just a hair. I don't know. I'd have to see it, but it just feels like there might be some information towards the bottom that's not really necessary. I really love that ridge of, that kind of like mountainous rocky ridge there. I love that. It looks like there's some light cast on it or something. That's really pleasing. And I would almost subdue the trees a little bit to make them a little, I mean, I know that was the idea, you painted them in, but there's probably a way to make them be there just enough to be present, but without, because I want to see the Milky Way more than anything. And I think my eyes keep getting drawn back down to the trees. So I bet there's a way to sort of balance that all out. And, this is all subjective. You might see it and say, I love it exactly the way it is. This is kind of how I see it right now. But it is a very cool shot. And the Milky Way looks amazing. There's a lot to love here, I think.
Yeah. It's just frozen. Lightroom is just frozen. I'm going to force quit it.
It's a shame.
Reopen it. Quick pick of more of Tanya's work. Let's scroll through while we wait for Lightroom to reopen. More couch pictures. Okay, here we go. Sorry about that, guys.
That's all right. All kinds of technical issues today, right?
Yeah. All right, so let's come back. I think those were good suggestions, Carr.
Okay, thank you.
Tonya, if you had anything else you wanted to say, but while you talk, I'm going to try to get a version of this out. And let's look at these side by side and see if we notice a huge difference in noise amount.
I like that you pointed out that ridge, because I do think that's at least the secondary focal point, and I just want to kind of go between that and the Milky Way. So the trees do pull you down, and not for long, but I do think there's something to play with there. Like, I think you're right, either cropping it up a little bit or just toning them down. But yeah, or maybe even just slightly pulling out some of the highlights on that ridge to make sure that that's the next thing you look at. But
Yeah.
it's a cool shot.
Yeah, very much so.
Yep. It's just, oh, there it goes. Okay. So if we open this up next to it, well, they look fairly similar here.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, looks almost identical.
They do. Let's open it up with preview and let's zoom in a little. So what we were seeing, let's zoom in on this ridge area here, and then let's do the same over here. I don't think we're not in it that much. 100? Is that about the same? And still a little bigger. Notice so over here in Lightroom, you can see we're missing stars.
Hmm.
Well, no, I think it is just our view.
Hmm.
It's kind of hard for me to tell. I feel like I'm getting a secondary version of.
Yeah, you guys, especially everybody watching on YouTube, this might be subtle enough that it really is difficult to tell.
Yeah, it is kind of hard to tell from my end. I mean, I don't know.
Right now, actually, they do look very, very similar to me.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I'm playing one of those games where it's like find the 10 differences, but I haven't found any.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like counting the stars.
Yeah.
Oh,
But
I see the Death Star. There it is.
Steve and I have noticed with at least one other shot that we worked on, and Steve, I imagine you've looked at some similar ones, is once you export them, they are, was it noisier? Or less noisy, and you were even missing stars. So there's like additional noise reduction that isn't turned on anywhere, and we've checked that it's not happening during the export process, it's less noisy.
Interesting.
I don't know, Steve. Steve, you need to keep bugging me, and I need to actually spend some time and see if we can figure that out. That's an issue.
Yeah.
Interesting. We're gonna move on for now. Okay, Mike. Cameron Peak Fire. Let's fit
Whoa.
this.
What?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Come on, Lightroom.
Is that one of those Photoshop sky replacements?
Yes. Can you imagine using this in the future? Put this aside to use from your library?
Exactly. Yeah.
Use it in a wedding shot.
Yeah, I was gonna say for a wedding shot.
Where they're like all running away instead of a T-Rex, you know?
Yeah. Your wedding was on fire, man.
Wow, that's incredible.
That is amazing.
That's
I think we know what the subject is.
Right. Which actually kind of makes me think maybe a little less foreground. I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the same.
Yeah, and we have a little rock here. We have a couple little shadows peeking in here, so I think we can come up from those at the very least.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, Tonya, would you come all the way up onto one of these pines or past that?
I don't. If you come up halfway through the pines, then I think you have to clone.
Yeah.
I was gonna say you could probably. I kind of like that to a degree. I mean, maybe come a little lower and then like a little cloning, because I like that little row of trees to the right.
Yeah.
It's a nice corner element, and then you could sort of like, you could probably crop down a little bit, you know, like give a little more foreground to it, but kind of feels like a sweet spot there, because we really are looking at that smoke. I mean, that's everything else just kind of supposed to lead you into it.
That's so apocalyptic looking. I feel like it would be intimidating to stand there and take that photograph.
Yeah, me too.
Mm-hmm. It doesn't feel very far away at all.
No.
I mean, it doesn't even look real because it's just so intense. And I don't say that as a slam on the photo. It's amazing. Like, I've never seen anything like that. So
Yeah.
God.
I certainly haven't. But
Yeah, that's incredible. I think that crop is more in the ballpark of what I would do.
Yeah, I think that's a good suggestion.
I also feel like maybe is the horizon tilted just slightly. Maybe it's just the way the trees kind of come out down at a slant that gives me that.
Yeah, it could be, but it's hard to know in these situations.
I feel like I want to tilt it a little bit to the left.
the left going down a little.
Yeah, just a tiny
So
bit.
I did that a little bit. It seems about right to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because the trees are mostly kind of averaging out to be vertical. I mean, some are leaning this way, some are leaning that. But that's always, you know what? I will say this to everybody listening. Like, there are times when, okay, you're not going to have a clear horizon like you would in this picture where you can kind of tell what level is. But don't always just go off of exactly what seems to be level. Go off what looks right. You know, it's not always about like what it should be. Sometimes it's about it's not about what it was. It's about what it should be, I think, sometimes. And I think you have to, that's putting your artist hat on more than your technical hat, but just looking at the whole thing and saying like, should I turn that a little? Would it look better? I mean, it's a relative thing. But I do think there are times to really, really consider that. So.
Yep. All right, moving on. We got Mike's Winter Morning Sunrise. I think this is Mount Hood. Gorgeous sunrise.
Yeah.
Really, really lovely.
Okay, don't anybody turn that black and white. I like it.
It's got too many colors.
Yeah, those colors are
in a good way.
Awesome.
I do. I love the colors in this.
I would come up from the bottom, I think, maybe.
Yeah, I don't think we need as much water. What if we come in somewhere around this first dark band that kind of frames this first color? Or
exactly.
Come into that first color.
Or come into it, yeah. It's.
You know, I just
around there.
When I teach art, I always give, especially when I'm talking to my students about photography, I really kind of talk poorly about sunset photos because usually when high schoolers are doing them, they're doing them really poorly. And I like this because usually the problem with sunset photos for me is there's no focal point. It's just colors.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
This is something that I really appreciate because for me, the focal point is that mountain peak, which is nice because it's not just the sun either, which is if you get a focal point in a sunset, I feel like it's the sun. And so this is a nice change of pace. And the focal point is a cool color, which is unusual. So I like this.
This is one of those photos where it's actually really simple. I mean, there's not like, it's simple, but it's like, perfect. And I love the saturation. You know, sometimes I think we encourage desaturation or like less saturation, but I'm a sucker for saturation when it's right. And when the colors work well together. And I mean, I don't know, maybe the oranges get a little strong, but I kind of like them. And the only thing I see in this that I'm like, if it was my photo and I was editing it, I would probably start playing around with a few of those little wisps of clouds that are kind of to the right, or just this little, I know they were there, and I know that's part of what nature was doing, but it's perhaps not necessary for them to be there in your final image.
Yeah, good. I'm glad you saw that too.
And that, look at that. Yeah,
he's going for that tree.
And I would just say, as I zoom in a little closer, well, I mean, there's just the tiniest bit of maybe haloing here. So if you were going to print this a little bit larger, you might want to watch out for that. But, I mean, otherwise, I'm in agreement. Just a gorgeous picture. And, Tonya, it's funny you mentioned the sunrise, sunset. You know, I've been doing this show off and on now for, 6-7 years.
Wow.
And way back, early episode, my partner at the time was like, people, we don't need any more sunsets or sunrise pictures. And you said it in a much nicer way. So
I don't want to hate on all sunsets, but I have judged for years a very large junior high and high school photography competition that is a couple states wide. And I just get so many sunset photos and none of them have focal points. And that's the irritating thing for me is that they were just pretty colors, but that wasn't enough. If you have pretty colors in a great composition, then I love your sunset photo. But most of the time, teenagers just think I got a lot of likes on Instagram, and so it must be a great photo.
I want to repeat what you said because it's so important. Just because there's pretty colors doesn't make it a great photo.
Yes.
That's right.
Well said. All right,
and it's hard to capture a sunset better than it is in real life. So you have that going against you too, I think.
All right, Kevin went down to Wattle Beach
Mm,
and already turned it black and white for us.
yeah, it's great.
So much texture in the rock. It's lovely.
Yeah.
Do we need as much sky as we have? What if we came down and really made it about this rock stretching into the stretching off into the distance?
Hmm. Yeah.
And then I wonder, I want to just kind of come in tighter.
Yeah, that's looking good. Man, I would make this color. I'm just kidding.
I love the texture and movement of the
Yeah,
texture in
awesome.
this.
Yeah. I'm going to just bring the texture slider up a bit more. I dragged a graduated filter across the bottom there, bringing texture and clarity up just a bit more. I think there's room for
Yeah,
more.
that's
And
killer.
I'll just really let the swirls in the rocks. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. I love what you did with the crop too, because the sky is actually a great sky. This is a very good sky to capture with this foreground. But what's cool is the foreground is so awesome, and there's so much like abstract beauty to it that the sky can just be sort of hinted at. It doesn't even really need to be the major feature. It just needs to complement all the coolness that's happening in the other 3/4 of the image.
Yeah.
I feel.
Nice, Kevin. All right, we're gonna finish up with Paul Anderson's "Loving Eagles."
Mm,
So he posted somewhere on Facebook. I don't know if it was this shot or a similar one, but he's got a pair of eagles not too far off from his house that look like they're gonna start nesting again here soon. And this is a male and female in their courtship. Wow, pretty. It's one thing to get a wildlife shot, like Lori also was kind of this cool family moment of wildlife. It wasn't just some animal sitting on a branch or standing on a hillside. They were on the midst of their little migration, and here we've got two eagles with their beaks open and really cool symmetry.
yeah, it's
Neat
cool.
shot.
It's very cool. What's the file size on this? I mean, or like, has he already cropped a decent amount, or?
This, I believe, we've been given a 2700 by 2700
Okay,
image
so
size. So it makes me think it's probably been cropped already.
yeah,
Were you thinking of something that kind of comes in a little?
yeah. I mean, I was actually kind of thinking of a horizontal crop, like I don't know, like I almost thinking like a very symmetrical. I don't know. It's just I have to sometimes play around to see if I even like what I'm imagining. I don't know. Maybe that's too much, but
Yeah.
I do like less tree though,
Yeah.
it's
as far as the background tree.
Yeah.
Just to clarify.
I think.
I mean, I realize it starts to get to be a
This guy
small
up here.
file, but
Right.
yeah, that's just a cool moment.
Yeah. I think we could be a little bit tighter, Paul. But otherwise, I mean, your exposure here is great. I love the white of their feathers and the clarity of the eyes.
Yeah, perfect.
Well,
That's
and the
really,
curve,
really
the
nice.
top curves of the beak, the fact that you can see the curve coming through the mouth of the,
Yeah,
like, sheesh.
Yeah. That's cool. Very cool.
it's
All right.
really a neat moment.
All right. Nice. Okay, we're going to come back to us. Remember, I had to warn you all because last time.
Yeah, I know. Last time I was like right at the
Too
camera.
close. Hey, everybody who sent your pictures in, thank you so much. I know it's not always easy to put your work out there in front of everybody, but I hope you found value in what we shared back with you all. And if you're watching this, you're not a PEN member, you'd like to submit images in the future, learn more at photorec.tv/pen. New members, you join for just $24 for your first year. $24 for the whole year. You get to send in pictures every week. You get to put pictures on the Facebook or in the community forum. You also get to partake in the monthly image competitions where you could win a really nice prize from Bay Photo as well. So consider that. Plus, of course, hundreds of hours of training videos that we have there, and also the ability to say, hey, my Lightroom is acting funny. My smart previews seem to be screwing up my editing, as you just saw. And then we figure that out and help you figure that out. So consider joining. All right. Let's transition from this. David Carr, tell us a little bit about how it's going with Capture One, which just for anybody who doesn't know, Capture One is a very strong alternative to Lightroom. in several ways is superior, and then in some ways maybe not. So
Right.
we didn't really talk about you doing this, David. I just decided.
No, it's okay.
I
Check in. I figured we'd probably talk about it because I posted about it the other day, and I only did that after becoming enthusiastic about it. I've been toying around with Capture One, thinking about switching for about a year now, and it's just intimidating because I've got all this time and tens of thousands of photos that I've invested into Lightroom, and I love Lightroom. I'm not slamming Lightroom. I know we were just joking about it being glitchy. Lightroom has gotten me where I am as a photographer, at least on the editing side of things, I should say. And I've learned so much about what to do and what not to do because of Lightroom. But I just feel like even with a computer that I put a lot of money into just a little over a year ago, with tons of RAM and all the stuff, all the graphics cards, all that stuff is where it needs to be. And yet I still run into these situations where I push a button and it takes too long for the thing to happen. And maybe too long is relative. Like sometimes it's only like 2 seconds, but when I'm really trying to blaze through a bunch of edits, I don't want to wait on everything to happen. And if any of you have used Photoshop at all, like along with Lightroom, you should notice that when you go into Photoshop, things happen immediately. I mean, you just do something and it just happens. And occasionally I'll get the beach ball, or, I use a Mac. Occasionally I'll get that in Photoshop as well. But all in all, it's very quick. And Lightroom just sometimes lags. It's just latent. And I don't know, I've heard that that's sometimes based on how the coding that it was initially built upon is kind of like dated in a sense, but they can't just quickly change it all. I don't really understand how it works. All I know is that I decided to go ahead after downloading the Capture One trial multiple times using all these different email addresses that I'd had over the years, just like, I'll do another month with this one. And then I wouldn't mess around with it. And then I finally said, okay, I'm going to actually dive in and just figure it out. And I did a few photos with the trial. And then I was like, I think I might be sold. And if I'm not 100% sold, I'm willing to take the chance. So I bought it. And this is a great time to ask me, because today I had a headshot session this morning at a company, and I wanted to plug right in and tether straight into Capture One. And I was nervous to do it because I had not done that yet. I had not tethered into it, plugged it in. It was seamless, immediate. Nice. And I gotta say, and I don't know if it's the grass being greener on the other side. I don't know if it's just like the honeymoon phase of using something new, but the images that were popping up on my screen that I was showing my client just looked great. And they just had a pop to them that I haven't seen in a while. And I don't know what it was. Again, I'm not slamming Lightroom. I'm just saying they had a thing. And it was really exciting to use it.
Most of the friends that I have that have switched to Capture One speak very highly of its raw engine. So the code under the hood that takes your raw file and transforms it into the what you get inside the program is better than Lightroom.
Seems to be. And I'm trying to be fair in my judgment, because there are times when I'm using it and I'm frustrated because I'm like, I wish it would just do this when I want it to do it. There are certain things it doesn't do as well. It does everything, but there's certain ways that I'm used to doing things in Lightroom. And if you guys have watched me on here, and Toby, you've talked about this before, that I'm always talking about keyboard shortcuts, and some of those shortcuts are not the same, and some of them don't even exist. But one thing I really love with Capture One, if anybody downloads the trial and tries it out, you can customize that desktop, that workspace, to be very much like your Lightroom workspace. And you can also customize your shortcut keys to be almost all of them. You can mirror what you've been doing in Lightroom. So if you use a lot of keyboard shortcuts, you can mirror that. You get to create your own set. And then if you're like, I don't like that, I'd like to go back, you just hit the default shortcuts and it takes you back to that. And I really like that, because I've been able to go in and some of my flagging keyboard shortcuts for the different color flags and the different numbers of ratings, I've changed all of those to be the same. I've changed my healing brush and my adjustment brush to all be the same. So I'm just able to edit like I've been editing And occasionally, yeah, I get a little hung up. I'm like, oh wait, I need to do this. But all in all,
You're
I
pretty
mean,
happy so far.
I am, and I'm mostly happy with just the speed and the feel of it. It's so far, it's been good. But like I said in my post the other day, I might a month from now say I'm done with Capture One. I'm back to Lightroom.
Yeah,
We shall see.
I've tried a couple of times, and I've just never really given it enough. And part of my excuse is, well, I need to stay a Lightroom expert. I don't feel like a Lightroom expert today, though, because as I was just struggling with Lightroom. So maybe that's a lame excuse. But
No, I hear you.
it really does seem that, the core engine of it is more improved than Lightroom. Now, let me ask you, you're a Nikon shooter. Did you go with the Nikon exclusive plan, or did you go with the all camera? What did you decide to go with?
I did for every camera, and because occasionally I shoot weddings, and the assistant that I use a lot, the second photographer, she uses Canon, and I like to work on her images. I like to work on all of them together.
Sure.
And I thought, well, gosh, if I really stick with this and I get some other camera brand or something, I just want to be able to do it. I just was like, I'm just not going to hem and haw. I'm going to go for it. But I hear you, because I've played around with it enough times in the past to think, oh, I'm not ready to do this. I'm not ready to do this. And, I do these how I edit videos on YouTube. It's been a while since I've done one, but I plan to continue doing those. And I'll probably do a lot of those in Lightroom still. I still have Lightroom. I still have Photoshop, and I'm still going to use Photoshop. But I'm very happy with the way Capture One works with Photoshop. It's very similar to Lightroom. So in a lot of ways, it doesn't feel like I've changed a whole lot. It almost feels like as if Lightroom came out with a whole new way of doing it that was like still great, but it was just had some new tools and new terminology. So
okay, so you're saying with the kind of you've applied some of the keyboard shortcuts to match what you're doing in Lightroom, so that it doesn't actually feel that different.
Right. Well, the other thing I've done is I've taken all my sliders and tools. When you get Capture One, it's all going to be on the left, so that's going to be weird because you're used to Lightroom, everything's on the right. Well, you can move all that to the right. Your timeline is going to show up on the right when you first get Capture One. You can move it to the bottom. And you can move things around, and there's still some significant differences, but the things that I'm having to get used to are not that hard to get used to, really, for me. Some of the terminology is different, but I really also like the outputting. I'm still figuring it out, but the way you can output, they call them recipes, instead of just like output as a JPEG to this folder at 80% and 1500 pixels on the long side. You can have multiple, you can create as many recipes as you want, and when you go to output a photo, you can output it to all of those different ones. So you could be like, here's my full res, here's the one for print, here's the one for Instagram, and they all just, and I think you can do that in Lightroom, but I just never really, I figured you could.
That was
But
that was added not too long ago to be able to do that multi-output as well.
They kind of push it a little bit more, I think, in Capture One. It's, I'm sure I'm going to be kicking things across my room at some point in frustration, but so far, man, I'm pretty happy with it.
Good. Well, that's good. We'll check in with you from time to time. I will say for hobbyists, I think it does get expensive pretty quickly because, like you said, I think most of us with Photoshop we'll also find ourselves in Photoshop. No matter how good Capture One is, and no matter how good Lightroom is, there are still times where we move over to Photoshop for certain things. I think Mike said in the spot healing is so much faster in Photoshop, and that's true for both those products. So to pay for both Capture One and an Adobe subscription that includes Photoshop is a little pricey. But if you're serious and you want the absolute best out of your work, I really do feel like Capture One offers something nice. Now, it was 2 days ago they increased their prices, Capture One. I know. So
I'm glad I bought it when I did.
$20 a month now for every camera. That's the subscription model. You can buy it outright as well. They don't force you. Say if you hit buy or subscribe, I think you can see buy now, one-time payment to own your Capture One Pro 21, and it will have updates for some period of time, a year or two, maybe.
Yeah.
But
Well, and I don't know if I did the subscription and it was cheaper than that.
Yeah.
It feels like every 5 minutes I get an alert on my phone about Capture One running a new sale. I mean, they're constantly talking about this percent off and that percent. But and I will say I read a lot about this whole styles thing. You see that $449, that's a lot of money to pay for a piece of software.
yeah.
But that's because it comes with all these styles, and most of the pros that I've watched and read reviews of said, don't waste your time on the styles. You don't really. It's like filters and presets. Some of them are cool, but I don't use those anyway in Lightroom. So I just
If you have a specific editing style that works for you, yeah. And so Tonya, interest at all? You are very adept at Lightroom and Photoshop. It's
Well, I would have to say more so Photoshop, because you guys school me regularly in Lightroom. But because I just do very light editing in Lightroom, and I use that to cull my images. But then I do the heavy lifting in Photoshop for me, because I'm retouching portraits and doing composite work, and I like using a lot of layers. So I'm interested in Capture One. I'm listening to David talk about it, and it's definitely intriguing. But I don't have a lot of problems with Lightroom. Like, even the stuff that you guys complain about, the lagging, I haven't experienced that yet. Knock on wood. So I think I would need to have issues with Lightroom to want to start over. But I'm not opposed to it. And
yeah.
So
I hear you.
I could get to that point. I'm not married to Lightroom, but it's easy and part of Photoshop for me. So
sure. Yep. All right.
I feel like Lightroom is. There are times when it's awesome, and I'm like, man, this is going so fast. And then other times where it just seems like for a month I'm struggling with latent things, and just, it's not like it's just awful at all. I mean, it's a really great program, but I just was like, it's 2021, got a new hard drive, new catalog. I'm just going to try something new and see where it goes.
Yeah.
This is mildly related. Well, a couple of things. One is, when we see it run really poorly on this show, I think part of that is because I'm streaming. I think that further bogs down this getting older iMac. I cannot wait for them to announce the Apple M1 chips. M1X is the rumor for the iMacs. I'm really excited about that. And related to that, tomorrow my MacBook Air arrives. And I'm really excited. I'm really excited to see how Lightroom runs on that machine.
Fantastic.
Because it cost me about the same as this Dell. And as I've mentioned a couple of times on the show, Lightroom does not run very well on it. And I don't need it. This isn't like my main editing machine. This is my on the road, help me back up, help me pick a couple of pictures and maybe share out a few. Not heavy editing. So I didn't want it to, or I didn't need it to, I pressed that, to do crazy stuff. So I don't need the M1 Air either to do crazy stuff, but I am really interested to see how the Adobe products run on it. I'm hearing mostly positive, but then as I mentioned in the last show, then somebody reached out to me and said, "Hey, watch this guy's video. He had tried the Mac Mini and really found Adobe, especially Lightroom, to not be great." So we'll see. I'll start testing it out tomorrow and bring you some results, hopefully in the next week or two.
That's exciting. I didn't know you were doing that. I'm happy for you, man.
Yeah.
Well, we had to know you were going to do it because you were using a PC.
Oh, ouch.
Touche. I know. I really, and part of the blame is me. It's not fun going back and forth keyboard wise. There are a couple times where I go to copy something and I go to paste it. Then I'm like, why isn't it pasting? Oh, I didn't hit the right keyboard combos because I'm used to my Mac. So part of it is clearly on me, but part of it, I really do feel like if these M1s perform as well as people are saying, that they are a great value, and I'm much happier having one system to just cart around and not two. But overall, this Dell has been pretty good. And just announced at CES, the LG Grams. If you're in the PC world and you want a lightweight laptop, those LG Grams look really, really impressive. Yeah, the Devons had those on our glacier trip last summer.
Okay,
Carr, I
yeah.
don't know if you remember it. And
Yeah, I do.
And I lifted it. They're like 14 inches, and they're lighter than this little 13-inch MacBook.
That's amazing.
And they have good power as well. So
That's awesome. Yeah, it's I don't know what the deal is with. I don't understand how software works and why you can buy a computer with all the fixings and still have, slow, glitchy stuff. But I have noticed that my computer is very fast with certain things because all of this software, it taxes your computer no matter what you're running. It's a lot of work going on behind the scenes. So
yeah.
But you don't want to spend a bunch of money on a computer and then sit there waiting on the beach ball to go away when you're you're trying to just get serious about doing this. And so
yeah. David, let me ask you, are you running your catalog off the internal or an SSD or a physical bigger drive?
for Lightroom, it's been off an SSD, one of the SanDisk little small ones. Yeah, and it's all the USB-C stuff, and so I feel like everything that's happening with the hard drive is probably fine. I think it's just somewhere in the processing of it. I don't know. And my catalog that I've been working with lately, my latest Lightroom catalog was not very big at all. I mean, it only had a few thousand photos. It wasn't like just crammed with a bunch of information. So I just thought, man, if it's lagging on that, I don't know. I was like, I'm just going to try something else and see if it's going to remedy that situation. And so far it seems like it is, but who knows? As this Capture One catalog gets larger, I may be running into the same problem.
Yeah, well, I mean, it really works differently. So hopefully not. I haven't ever heard anybody talk about that. So we'll be curious.
Yeah,
we'll be curious.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, let's talk about Sony. They've got a drone, and they also announced a new camera today as well. Now, Tonya, you actually happened to be on the show when we said Sony's got a drone coming because they had this really little teaser image. And I remember you saying, I wouldn't even be able to tell that was a drone. Well, here now, we've got actual drone. We've got drone footage. And I'll say this, I'm a little disappointed because I was looking forward to something that was in the kind of consumer category that would be a nice competitor to DJI in that space, because there really is no competitor to DJI. But what we've got is something that's a step above or two. It is going to be serious enough to be able to carry around your Sony A7S camera.
I mean, I was going to say that looks awfully aggressive, but I'm
aggressive.
I'd be scared to death to put my camera on that. Are you kidding me?
I know, that's the thing. So there's no way this drone is going to cost less than I'd say $2,500 maybe, but probably more closer to about $4,000 would be the cost of the drone. Then of course you've got to put your camera on it, or buy a second one. So the idea, the footage, the photos that you could get out of this, holy moly, that's exciting.
Yeah.
But it is clearly a very serious drone. Now, what Sony's excited about, what they're saying is, hey, this is the smallest, the least aggressive drone that you can fit a full-size camera on. So that's kind of the big news about this. But it still clearly is a very serious drone. It gets traveled around in its own Pelican suitcase. It's got landing gear that flop up out of the way once it's flying, so that those don't get in the shot at all.
Oh, man.
And this doesn't rule out the fact that we might see a more consumer-focused drone from them at some point. But for right now, it's a serious drone. I might be lucky enough to let Sony lend this to me at some point in the near future. I did fly DJI's Inspire. I never made a video about it. I feel bad. I have all of this gigabytes of footage because that Inspire system shoots raw video. And so a 5-minute clip is like 10 or 12 gigabytes of size.
Yeah.
But it was very intimidating flying that. Even being somebody fairly comfortable with drones, because it is just so big and so serious. And you're like, if I crash this is about as much as the car I'm driving around.
You know what you can do? I've seen, you could take you have the Mavic Pro 2 or which one do you have? The Mavic Mini? Is that what you have?
Mavic Pro 2
the
and
Pro
the
2.
little Mini.
Okay, yeah. Well, either one. You can strap your wallet onto it and fly it up in the air, and get the same feeling as you might get with the camera on there.
Yeah, I think the dollar bills in the wallet would survive the fall better, but maybe if it, if I flew it out over the water,
Yeah,
if it's
okay,
a half
that's right,
mile out. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, very true. Travis says he updated to the faster SanDisk and using the Thunderbolt point, and it made a huge difference in Lightroom. That's interesting.
I saw that. Yeah, that's interesting. I don't guess I have the faster one. Maybe it's always the thing I don't have that's making it's. I guess I get
a difference.
I'm gonna get on B&H right now, y'all.
Get it. Let's stick on the drone story for just a moment and look at this. Tonya, I thought this is I didn't think this was you, but I thought maybe this might inspire you to say, hey, a drone should be in my future. This is a cool article.
I would probably crash that on me.
No, they really are.
Well, that's why I'm laying there.
They really are. Yeah.
That's crazy.
That's sad.
That's a really cool shot, though.
This is so on LoomCube's article, and just a reminder, the show notes, they're linked right down below this video, of course, along with Tonya and David's Instagram and social media links. You can find all that information down there. But this is on LoomCube's website. This is lit by LoomCube. So we've got a series of kind of portraits done with this little LoomCube on a drone. And there's just a little Q&A here, and then a link you can go follow to more of this guy, Yuri Borshev's photographs with drones. I just thought it was kind of a neat combination of all of our interests. So I thought that was cool.
I have a location that in the spring, the ground gets all dried and cracked like that I've actually wanted to do a portrait. So it's funny that you said that. But
very cool. Well,
I won't be that far away.
No? Okay. A ladder? How are you going to get the camera up?
I'm going to use a wide angle lens.
Okay, that works.
Okay.
Hey, and that's a great lead in. Speaking of wide angle lenses, let's come back here. So Nissi just announced this little 15 millimeter f4 lens. They sent it to me a couple of weeks ago. I've been shooting with it off and on, and it's very, very nice. This is their first lens. It is out for a Sony mount, for RF mount. Pre-orders available for Nikon Z mount. And I feel like there's one more mount that it's going to be available for soon. So that's nice in that it's almost all of these mirrorless systems it's ready for. It's manual focus only. It's an f4 to f22 lens, manual aperture as well. The interesting thing, it's been so cloudy here, I haven't tried this yet. It's supposed to be able to make sun stars even at f4. So when you shoot with the sun in the shot or other bright light sources and you get those nice little rays coming out of it, usually you have to go up to f12, f14 or higher to get those. This lens is supposed to be able to make them because of its straight aperture blade starting at f4. So I will be testing that. Cool. I want to ask both of you though, do you have any manual focus lenses in your arsenal, Tonya?
Just a lens baby, I think. So, and I have one of the old ones with the bellows, and you have to kind of like push and rotate, and but that's not it's a specialty kind of thing. So
David Carr, how about you?
No, I don't. I'm pretty boring with lenses. I just have like newer stuff, so nothing's
regular ones.
Newer and expensive and the best. Boring.
Well, I just mean like, there's nothing with like a story to it of like, oh, this was my grandfather's from Vietnam or something. It's not.
I actually have a bunch of old cameras and lenses, but I don't use any of them. They're just like display.
Yeah. I did see that they're releasing that for the Nikon though. I think it's one of the first third-party Z mount. One of the first.
Oh yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. Did you say the price on that? Did they give you?
No, I didn't. It's going to be $580. So quite reasonable. But again, it is manual focus. And I mean, you kind of made the joke about not having any of the older lenses that have stories and stuff. I think those are cool manual lenses to have around, or the lens babies, because they serve a specific purpose. They have a kind of a specific look to them. And you put them on when you really want to achieve that. And modern manual focus lenses, sorry, Nissi, I am less excited about. They really slow you down. And it depends. There are certain styles of work where I think it's totally fine.
Yeah.
But there are certain ones where being manual focus only does slow you down and really limits your kind of
Sure.
usefulness of the lens. And I'll even say with a wide angle manual focus, I find it difficult at times to tell if you've really nailed focus.
Yeah, that's
It
true.
all kind of looks in focus. You can zoom in. Every time I focus with this, I zoom in to the maximum magnification on the back and I move it back and forth. Is that in focus? Is that in focus? And
Yeah.
there's a huge swath where it all looks in focus, which makes me think that maybe I didn't nail it as sharp as I could have.
Yeah,
I've had that experience when reviewing other lenses.
I could see that. I could see that.
I will say when I'm shooting macro, I only manual focus that, but I use a lens that can autofocus. So, but
Yeah.
that is one instance where I do everything in manual. So
That's a great point. The macro is often does really well with manual focus. And do you actually turn the ring, or do you move the camera and lens forward and backward in space?
I don't have a slider. I turn the ring.
Okay.
So,
Nice.
but I just can't. It doesn't pinpoint the specific areas of like something small, like an insect that I wanted to choose. So
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And real quick, we're headed towards finishing up the show. If I could make this ad go away, Sony announced a lens that I'm curious to get your guys' opinions on because, see, I can't make that ad go away. So there it goes. Oh, gosh, so many alpha rumors.
Gotta love that.
I like this view of it because it shows the different sizes. Sony announced a new 35 f1.4. Stop seeing this ad. Not interested in this ad. Okay.
I did actually just get a new lens. I just got a 24-70 2.8 that I
You
love.
did?
Yes.
The Z mount?
I did get the Z mount.
That's awesome.
Very nice.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
I've only used it so far for sports, and I loved it for that. So I'm excited to
great.
use it for a portrait.
That's awesome.
Nice. So let me ask you both, as frequent portrait photographers, how do you feel about the 35 millimeter focal length on full frame?
I actually, it's funny you asked that because I had a 35-1.4 for my F mount stuff, and I didn't use it a lot. But every time I go through my photos, like from the last several years, and there'll be certain ones that'll like stand out, and I'm like, that was that 35. Like it's a pretty awesome, very versatile for a prime. And then if you shoot at 1.4, it does some magical things, I think. But it's not like there are a lot of situations where you're like, I don't want to just carry that one lens around, So I don't know.
Yeah. Tonya, how about you?
Well, I've not used a 35 prime. I do actually use a wide angle often for self-portraiture, like all of the couch images. I was either using a 50 or even going a lot wider. So I might like it. I don't think I would use it a lot for client work.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. It's a nice all around focal length, I think. This new Sony looks really nice. It's going to be similar to the 24, which is just a fantastic lens. And you can see that it's pretty compact. But this now means that Sony has something like 5 or 6 35 millimeter lenses. They're not all
really?
1.4s. They have 2 35 millimeter 1.4s. This new GM, which is going to come in at $1,400. They have the Zeiss, which is more expensive right now, but I expect the price will drop some to get closer.
Sure.
You have a Samyang, I believe this is manual focus only, 35 1.4, and then there's a bunch of 35s from Tamron, from another Samyang that's a 2.8, and the Tamron is a 2.8 as well. So
Yeah.
it is. There's no shortage of 35s, and I think they're a nice lens, but often for portraiture I like to be a little bit longer, 50, 85.
Yeah, 35's really getting too wide for portraiture, unless you're doing sort of a like if you're shooting like a group, like a family or something where you're a little further back. But there is a cool thing that it can do, and because it is wide enough to sort of be an event lens. If you like, a lot of folks will shoot weddings and use only prime, so they'll have like a longer lens on their one camera body and like a 35 on the other, or I've even shot a few wedding shots with a 35, and it's not so much about like, is it wide enough? Is it not wide enough? It's about the aesthetics of the prime lens thing that it does that is just unique, and it's a really cool effect. But I would say if you're like, oh, I really want to get a prime lens, I would say get a 1.8 that's going to be cheaper and try to find a used one, because it's probably not a lens you're going to be like married to. Like, I have to have this on my camera all the time. So why go spend $1,500, $2,000 on something that you don't use a lot when you're going to get 98% of the coolness of it in a 1.8 that you could probably get used and save a ton of money. That's my 2 cents on that.
I think those are good 2 cents.
Good.
Cool. All right, real quick, two closing stories before we get to Tonya's. One is GoPro Labs. So if you have a GoPro Hero 7, 8, or 9, some of this has been available for a while. They have this kind of beta software. It's not really beta. It's more of like these additional features. And just Google GoPro Labs or go to the show notes right down below the video. And you can add a bunch of different features to your GoPro, like perfect setup for sunrise or sunset. Like, you can set the time where it'll start shooting. So you could go to bed, have this pointed out your window. Tonya, I know we're not, we've already talked about not being great fans of sunrise or sunset pictures, but maybe sunrise or sunset time lapse.
Yeah.
There you go.
It also can be used as a dash cam. It has motion detecting built in once you install this new software. So if you have one of those cameras and you want to like, hey, let's play around with it a little bit more, you can check that out. And a bit of sad news, Costco is closing all of their print centers next month, basically a month from today.
I had no idea.
All print centers will be closing. And I actually, it's been a very long time, but I used to recommend Costco as a decent, if you had a Costco near you and you needed a print quickly, especially even a bit of a bigger print, because they were able to do that, I found the Costco quality to be quite good.
Yeah, so I'll actually back that up, because and it's been a long time for me too. I don't want to say how long, but when I was in college, if I needed something really fast, I would go to Costco, and they were far better than most. Unless, there was a day where you could go to a half hour, like a 1 hour lab, and that was custom. But if you had to go to kind of more the drugstore way, Costco was decent. So
well, plus you could leave with your prints and a 5-gallon container full of pretzels.
And enough toilet paper for quarantine.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice. Yeah.
No, I'm sad to hear that though. We're Costco people. I've never printed there, but I've thought about like, what if I could use a few prints there? Oh well.
They will still have their online center that you can send to and they ship to you. But honestly, at that point, then you should be talking to Bay Photo.
Absolutely.
The quality of Bay Photos so much better. Okay.
Yes.
Tonya, let me see if there were any other guesses what your prop was. But so you've got goals this year. You both have goals for your business and goals creativity-wise. The one other guess I see in here was pineapple chair. I don't. What
I
is
like
a pineapple chair?
Pineapple chair.
Maybe
pineapple chair.
Maybe I'm supposed to decorate the chair in pineapples.
Maybe that's what it is.
Maybe.
I think the pineapple could have a special appearance in my next series.
Tell us your prop, please. Your creativity prop.
I have an old broken refrigerator, and I'm super excited because it's absurd, and that's why I like it.
There you go.
Nice. Very nice. And what kind of time frame are we talking here? Because I know before the show we were talking a little bit about the amount of work that goes into. So we were scrolling through those couch pictures. Not only I think people can imagine the amount of post-processing, but the amount of work to kind of set up and make sure you have everything you need, and then to carry through. When do we think we're going to see our first pictures involving the fridge?
I'm planning for like mid-February. And I'll try to get some hard and fast dates out, because I also probably have to take off of work for this. Last time I had the ease of quarantine. But it did take me, because every day I would come in, I would build the new set, photograph it, which isn't always easy when it's a self-portrait, although this year I'm going to tether. So hopefully that'll be a little smoother of a process. And refrigerators are heavy. So there's that. And then I edit, and then I also put out a newsletter all same day with the process of that image. So it's like it's a long week of, I have to plan meals.
Yeah, you do. Just in case people don't know, you do have a family.
Yeah,
I just
you do.
wonder how often they see you when you're in the middle of the hardcore creative process part.
Yeah, my kids are really into it. They think it's awesome, so they don't care.
That's good. Nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine what you do with a refrigerator, but
Well, I haven't quite imagined
have
it
faith
yet
in you.
either, but it's part of it. It is a really good creative exercise, actually, to take something that is absurd and lame and really try to come up with something of substance from that. It was just a weird idea that I had last year with the free couch because I was getting new furniture, and I thought, what if I had to make photos with this furniture? And I don't know why anybody think that, but it really pushed me, and it really kind of pushed me into a creative area that held on for a long time. So
that's cool.
Yeah, it's just
Nice.
I don't know. We'll see how long I do these weird things.
Do you storyboard or journal? What is part of that creative process in leading up to actually, gathering what you need?
So I usually start with brainstorming, which I try to have no rules for, which is like any words related to a refrigerator or any kind of phrases about eating or food or like absolutely anything. I just try not to let anything be wrong, and sketches. And then I have to kind of narrow some of those things down and also into what is actually plausible, because some of my ideas are not possible.
Well, you never know till you try. So.
Well, I know. And thank goodness for Photoshop.
Nice.
That's awesome.
Very nice. Cool. And let's switch gears just for a moment, though. You also run a portrait photography business, family photography. You have some concrete goals this year that I saw you mention are more specific than you have in the past. And obviously, you don't have to give us, say, I want to be a millionaire this year. but how, for people out there, and we have quite a few in the pen community and also watching who want to have a successful business, how are you setting those goals, and how are you going to make sure as you go through the year to kind of check in with yourself?
Well, this is a change for me because I like to have my fingers in way too many things, and I teach at a school and I work as the supervisor of maintenance there. And I don't need to do all of these things, but I like doing all of them. So I really run my business part-time by choice, and I kind of just have it going on autopilot. People call me, I get referrals, and that's been good enough. And I just kind of decided this year that I didn't want to be on autopilot, that I really wanted to be motivated and work my business and pursue it a little bit harder, and maybe just channel my energy more into one area. Certainly not leaving the school in case anybody is getting nervous that might be watching this. I love it there. But so I set some number goals for income and like what I would like to average each month. And it's lofty, especially considering I have not marketed in the past. And I've been fortunate in the fact that I didn't have to. And so that's why I didn't. But this year I'm really looking at things, and I really want to give more to my clients this year and create a really incredible experience. I felt like after 2020, memories just seemed more important. We were all stuck in our houses, and the family photos that you have to look at day in and day out should be really high impact for you and make that space better if you're stuck there. But I just want clients to come in. I'm hiring a hair and makeup artist, and I want it to be
awesome.
What I want from an experience. I want it to feel like that's something you're looking forward to from the time that you book it until you get your images. So
that's great.
Nice. Sounds good.
That's very cool.
Awesome.
So I'm excited. I think it's going to be a transition year, I think. So I feel like I'll get a lot of these things rolling and into place, and then next year I'll really be able to fine tune and hone that in. But cool. I can't wait. I can't wait for the images that I get to create, just implementing some of those things. So it's exciting for me as well as my clients.
That's really cool.
Looking forward to it. All right.
Definitely.
And thanks for sharing that with the wider audience too. I think that's helpful.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Okay, real quick, a couple of questions before we finish up. Steve wants to know, David, are you concerned about ever wanting to take Capture One edits and bring them into Lightroom?
No, yeah, he asked that. I saw that in the chat. I haven't really considered that at this point. I think once I'm kind of finished with an edit or a group of edits, I'm kind of finished with them. I mean, I don't usually go back and. I mean, it's not always true. There are some that I'll go back and kind of retweak some more, but it's kind of like I'm willing to take the risk at this point. My hope is that Adobe will really do a major overhaul to Lightroom and to all that, and maybe along with like new chips in the Apple computers and new whatever. I hope we're not a year or two from now complaining about things being laggy and buggy, and because we rely on this stuff to work for us, and so many other things work really well. It just should work well. So, but even if Adobe improves all of that, I might by that point be really married to Capture One. I do think it's a robust program. It's obviously, I mean, the makers of Capture One, it's Phase One, the company that makes these like $50,000 medium format, crazy expensive, super high end cameras. So, they're not just some Silicon Valley nerds just trying to make a buck. They actually know a lot about photography, and it all started with them creating a system to be able to tether with, and that grew into what is now Capture One. So I think there's some really good deep roots there with it. Again, I might be a month from now eating my words, but I figured I would take the chance, and we'll see.
I mean, everything you said is accurate. It's true. Whether or not it continues to work for you.
Yeah, it's cool. You have to kind of sometimes decide. Because I'm a working photographer, and I'm trying to make a living doing this and continue to get better and better. And part of that is being inspired, continuing to be inspired, and if something comes along that reinvigorates me a little bit, maybe something as simple as just a piece of editing software. Maybe that's what I need. It certainly has gotten me excited to dive in and edit again. So.
Nice.
Well, and I saw that comment. I don't know why you would need, as long as it's working flawlessly with Photoshop, because I feel like Photoshop does something different. It seems like they do so similar of the same thing that you wouldn't need to pull it into Lightroom.
Yeah, I mean, and I could totally see his point, because if I did decide somewhere halfway through the year that, oh man, I'm done with Capture One, and now I have all these images that have been kind of really processed in Capture One, and I want to move everything back to Lightroom. I don't know how possible that is. I know you can move your Lightroom stuff into Capture One. I don't know how much of your edits are saved. I really haven't dove that deep into any of that stuff, but right now I don't have enough images in Capture One that I'm going to be like devastated if I have to switch back. It's not going to be the end of the world. So
nice. Okay, good. Pamela wants to know if any of us are familiar with the brand Seven Artisans at all. And I know of them. I've never shot with any of their lenses. They're all little metal construction, manual focus only lenses that seem to have, for the most part, good reviews. This 35 millimeter f.95, not so much, but most of them have good reviews, and the prices are very, very reasonable. But yes, they are manual focus only, Pamela, so you got to be okay for that. Which I just point out, Jason Troyer mentioned this a little while ago. Manual focus lenses are fantastic for time lapse, because you don't have to worry about your aperture flickering at all. So if you are interested in the time lapse and you're getting serious about it, finding a good manual aperture and manual focus lens can be really nice for that, because you don't have to worry about anything changing over the course of the time lapse. Yeah. So I don't know. Have either of you shot with that brand specifically?
No, I haven't. I have heard. I see the name a lot, but I've never shot with it.
Yeah. And the last question, I think, was about how I manage my catalog when traveling on the road and getting home. And Mike, I think you're a Pen member, because you submitted an image too. I've got a couple of different videos that talk about that. My current method, though, is it is my current year catalog stays on an SSD and goes on the road with me. And when I come home, I've obviously on the road added pictures to this. And when I come home, I simply plug this into my main computer. It gets backed up, but I continue to work off of this. So, and then the big master catalog that holds all of my past pictures, that just sits at home on one thing. That doesn't, so that takes out the merging. I found the merging, it's not terrible, but it's a bit more work than you want to do frequently, as frequently as I travel in a normal year. So taking that out of the equation was nice for me and just kind of simplified the process. But it is pretty straightforward to merge, and I show how to do that in a pen video that's online. Message me if you want a direct link to that. So, yeah. And it's 3:30. I got to go wish a adorable little girl a happy birthday. So we're going to wrap this show up.
All right.
Tonya, thank you so much for hanging out with us today. Really appreciate it. And anybody watching who isn't already, you should follow Tonya Wilhelm. Her link, her Instagram is right there. And you can also, she mentioned her newsletter a couple of times. You can get to that through another link that's right down below this video. So if you want to see what she's up to behind the scenes as she's putting out these fridge-focused photos. I just made that up for you. You can.
Thank you.
It's up to you whether or not you use pH for fridge or not. I'll let you decide that. No, it's terrible.
I'm not that cool.
Yeah, I know. I think that's the opposite of cool. Just. But yeah, so go follow her, and thanks so much for hanging out with us today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. I love being here.
And David Carr, thank you once again, sir, for joining us. Really appreciate it. We're interested to see where you end up with Capture One.
Thank you.
I'm rooting for you.
I appreciate it, man. It's always a pleasure to be on here, and it was great to see you again, Tonya, on here, and all of you guys in the chat room. Thank you for keeping it lively and fun. And I hope that no matter what happens in this year, I hope all of you grow in your photography. And I have a new video and podcast that will be coming out in the next couple of days. So
awesome. Links to subscribe to his YouTube and the podcast are right down below this video as well. So go check those out. All right. Thank you both. And yes, chat room, thank you so much. We'll see you again next week. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.